Marcus Williams was washing dishes for tips when billionaire James Morrison first noticed him. 3 weeks later, Marcus would be bleeding in a park, shielding Morrison's son from gunfire. Sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of timing, and an even stranger way of building families. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Marcus Williams stood at his kitchen window, watching the rain streak down the glass like tears on a tired face. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he kept holding the chipped mug anyway. It was Thursday morning, and Thursday mornings were the hardest. "Daddy, I can't find my lucky socks," came a small voice from behind him. Marcus turned to see his 7-year-old daughter Emma standing in the doorway, her dark curls messy from sleep, wearing mismatched pajamas. She held her backpack in one hand and a worn teddy bear in the other. "Lucky socks are in the dryer, sweetheart," Marcus said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Go get them while I make your lunch." As Emma ran off, Marcus opened the nearly empty refrigerator. 2 slices of bread, some peanut butter, and half an apple. He made the sandwich carefully, cutting the apple into perfect slices the way Emma liked. He had exactly $12 in his wallet until payday, which was still 3 days away. Marcus worked double shifts at the diner downtown, but it barely covered rent, utilities, and Emma's needs. His ex-wife Sarah had left them 2 years ago, saying she needed to find herself. She found herself in another man's arms in California, leaving Marcus to raise Emma alone. "Found them," Emma announced, running back into the kitchen wearing bright red socks with tiny rainbows on them. "These are my lucky socks because Mommy gave them to me." Marcus's heart clenched. Even after 2 years, Emma still talked about her mother like she might come home any day. He knelt down to Emma's level and helped her put on her jacket. "Remember what makes you truly lucky, Em?" he asked, zipping up her coat. "Having the best daddy in the world," she said, throwing her arms around his neck. Marcus closed his eyes and held her tight. This little girl was everything to him. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every empty stomach was worth it for her smile. The walk to school was 8 blocks through their rough neighborhood. Marcus held Emma's hand tightly as they passed boarded-up shops and groups of men who started drinking before noon. He had grown up in this same area, and despite working so hard, he couldn't seem to escape it. "Daddy, why do those men always sit on that corner?" Emma asked, pointing to a group near the liquor store. "Sometimes people get lost, baby. They forget how to find their way home," Marcus answered, squeezing her hand. At the school gate, Marcus knelt down and straightened Emma's backpack straps. "Be good today, okay? Learn something amazing and tell me all about it tonight." "I will, Daddy. I love you to the moon and back. And I love you to the stars and beyond." Marcus watched until Emma disappeared into the building, then started his long walk to work. His shoes had holes in them and the rain was seeping through, but he walked with purpose. Everything he did was for Emma. The Sunrise Diner had seen better days, probably sometime in the 1960s. The red vinyl booths were cracked and patched with tape, the coffee was always too strong or too weak, and the grill made strange noises. But it was work and Marcus was grateful for it. "Morning, Marcus," called out Betty, the head waitress. She was 60-something with gray hair and a kind heart. "Table 6 is asking for you specifically. Some businessman who comes in every Tuesday and Thursday." Marcus grabbed his apron and looked over at table 6. A well-dressed man in his 50s sat reading the newspaper, his expensive suit standing out against the diner's worn surroundings. Marcus had served him before but had never really talked to him. "Good morning, sir." "The usual?" Marcus asked, pulling out his notepad. The man looked up and smiled. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something. I've been coming here for months and you're always so polite, so hardworking. What's your story?" Marcus felt uncomfortable. He wasn't used to customers asking personal questions. "Not much of a story, sir. Just trying to make an honest living." "You have kids?" "A daughter. She's 7. The man's expression softened. "I have a son about that age. Being a parent changes everything, doesn't it?" Marcus nodded. "Changes everything for the better, even when everything else is falling apart." "What's your name?" "I mean, I know your name tag says Marcus, but what's your full name?" "Marcus Williams, sir." The man extended his hand. "James Morrison. Nice to officially meet you, Marcus." Marcus shook his hand, noting the expensive watch and soft palms of someone who had never worked with his hands. "Nice to meet you too, Mr. Morrison." After James left, Betty came over to Marcus. "You know who that is, right?" Marcus shook his head. "That's James Morrison. He owns Morrison Industries. That big tech company downtown. Worth millions." Marcus looked toward the door where James had exited. Rich people eat at diners too, I guess. Rich people don't usually ask servers about their life stories, Betty said thoughtfully. There's something different about that one. The rest of Marcus's shift passed in a blur of orders, cleaning tables and washing dishes. His back ached, and his feet were swollen by the time he clocked out at 3 p.m. He had just enough time to pick up Emma from school and take her to the park before his evening shift at the grocery store started. Riverside Park was the one beautiful place in their neighborhood. It had been recently renovated with new playground equipment, clean walking paths, and even a small pond with ducks. It was Emma's favorite place in the world. "Push me higher, Daddy," Emma called from the swing set. Marcus stood behind her, giving gentle pushes and watching her hair fly in the wind. For these moments he could forget about the bills, the empty refrigerator, and the hole in his shoe. Emma's laughter was the most beautiful sound in the world. "Daddy, can we feed the ducks today?" Emma asked, slowing down the swing. Marcus checked his pocket. He had saved 2 slices of bread from his lunch. "Of course, sweetheart." They walked over to the pond, where several families were enjoying the afternoon. Marcus noticed a little boy about Emma's age playing alone near the water while a woman in an expensive dress talked loudly on her phone nearby. "Don't go too close to the water, Tommy," the woman called out without looking up from her conversation. "Mommy's busy." The little boy, Tommy, looked sad and kept glancing at his mother, hoping for her attention. Emma noticed too. "Daddy, that boy looks lonely. Can I share my bread with him to feed the ducks?" Marcus's heart swelled with pride. Even with so little, his daughter always wanted to share. "That's very kind of you, Em. Go ask if he wants to help." Emma walked over to Tommy. "Hi, I'm Emma. Do you want to help me feed the ducks?" Tommy's face lit up. "Really? My mom said not to bother anyone." "You're not bothering me. We can be duck feeding partners." Soon both children were laughing and throwing bread to the eager ducks. Marcus sat on a nearby bench watching them play. He noticed the woman on the phone. She looked familiar somehow, but he couldn't place where he'd seen her. That's when he saw them. 3 men in hoodies were walking toward the playground area with purpose. Something about their movement made Marcus's skin crawl. He had grown up in tough neighborhoods and knew danger when he saw it. One of the men kept looking at Tommy and the woman on the phone. Marcus heard fragments of their conversation. "That's her. Kid's right there. Make it quick." Marcus's blood ran cold. These men weren't just random troublemakers. They were here for someone specific. Marcus stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving the 3 men. They had split up now. One was walking toward Tommy and Emma, another was circling around toward the woman, and the third was blocking the main exit from the park. This was planned. Marcus's mind raced. He needed to get Emma away from there, but he couldn't leave that little boy in danger. The woman was still oblivious, lost in her phone conversation about stock prices and board meetings. "Emma," Marcus called softly, trying not to alarm anyone. "Come here for a second, sweetheart." But Emma was too busy laughing with Tommy to hear him. The first man was getting closer to the children. Marcus could see something metallic glinting under his hoodie. A gun. Without thinking, Marcus started moving toward the children. His heart was pounding, but his mind was crystal clear. He had to protect them both. "Hey!" Marcus called out loudly, hoping to alert other people in the park. "Emma, Tommy, come over here." The man in the hoodie turned toward Marcus, his eyes cold and calculating. That's when Marcus realized what was happening. This wasn't a random crime. This was a kidnapping. The woman finally looked up from her phone, and Marcus saw her face clearly for the first time. Victoria Morrison. He had seen her picture in the newspaper business section. She was James Morrison's wife, the CEO of Morrison Industries. The same James Morrison who ate at the diner every Tuesday and Thursday. And Tommy was their son. "Victoria Morrison," one of the men called out. "We need to talk." Victoria's face went white with fear. She dropped her phone and looked around frantically for Tommy. "Tommy," she screamed. "Tommy, come here right now." But Tommy was confused and scared by the sudden chaos. He froze in place near the pond, Emma beside him, both children too frightened to move. The man with the gun was now just a few feet from the children. Marcus didn't think. He just ran. Everything happened in slow motion and lightning speed at the same time. Marcus sprinted across the grass, his worn shoes slipping slightly on the wet ground. The gunman saw him coming and turned the weapon toward him, but Marcus didn't slow down. "Run, Emma. Run, Tommy. Get away from the water." Marcus shouted as he threw himself between the gunman and the children. The children scattered, Emma running toward the playground equipment and Tommy running toward his mother. Victoria was screaming, Other park visitors were starting to notice the commotion, and someone was calling 911. Marcus tackled the gunman and they both went down hard. The gun skittered across the grass and Marcus scrambled to kick it further away. But the other two men were converging on them now. "Get the kid," one of them shouted. "Forget the money, just grab the kid." Marcus looked up from the ground where he was wrestling with the first gunman. Tommy was running toward his mother, but he was going to pass right by the second gunman. Marcus made a choice that would change everything. He let go of the first gunman and threw himself toward Tommy, scooping the boy up just as the second gunman reached for him. Marcus curled his body around Tommy, protecting him with his own body as they hit the ground. That's when he heard the gunshot. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. Marcus felt like he had been hit by lightning and punched by a giant at the same time. The bullet had hit him in the shoulder, but he didn't let go of Tommy. Stay down," Marcus whispered to the scared boy. "I've got you." Emma was screaming somewhere behind him. Victoria was crying and shouting for help. Sirens were getting closer. Marcus looked up to see the three gunmen running away, their plan completely ruined by his intervention. One of them turned back and pointed the gun at Marcus again. Time stopped. Marcus looked at Tommy's scared face beneath him, then across the park at Emma, who was peeking out from behind a tree with tears streaming down her face. He thought about his daughter growing up without him, about all the bedtime stories he'd never read, all the school plays he'd never see. But then he thought about this little boy in his arms, and how Emma would never forgive him if he let something happen to another child when he could have helped. The gunman fired again. This bullet hit Marcus in the chest and he knew immediately that this one was bad. Really bad. But Tommy was safe underneath him and Emma was far enough away. That's all that mattered. Marcus rolled to the side off of Tommy and looked up at the cloudy sky. His breathing was getting harder and there was so much blood. "Mr. Marcus." Tommy was crying, trying to shake him awake. "Mr. Marcus, don't sleep." Victoria reached them first, dropping to her knees beside Marcus. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. Oh my God, you saved him. You saved my baby." She pressed her hands against Marcus's chest, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me, please. Help is coming." Emma appeared at Marcus's other side, her small hands touching his face. "Daddy? Daddy, you're bleeding. Why are you bleeding?" Emma's voice was small and scared. Marcus used every ounce of strength he had left to smile at her. "It's okay, baby girl. Daddy's okay." But he wasn't okay and they all knew it. Marcus woke up 3 days later to the sound of beeping machines and the smell of antiseptic. His chest felt like it was on fire, and his left arm was completely numb. The first thing he saw was Emma, curled up asleep in a chair beside his bed, still wearing the same clothes from the park. Someone had brought her a blanket and a pillow. The second thing he saw was Victoria Morrison, sitting in another chair with her son Tommy on her lap. Tommy was also asleep and Victoria was watching Marcus with tears in her eyes. "Hi," Marcus whispered, his throat dry and rough. Victoria jumped up carefully, not wanting to wake Tommy. "Oh, thank God you're awake. We've been so worried." "Emma?" Marcus tried to sit up but pain shot through his chest. "She's fine, she's been right here the whole time. She refused to leave." Victoria's voice was thick with emotion. "You saved my son's life. You saved Tommy." Marcus looked at his daughter, his heart breaking at how small and scared she looked even in sleep. "How long?" 3 days. You've been unconscious for 3 days. You lost so much blood." Victoria wiped her eyes. "The doctors weren't sure if you were going to make it." A nurse came in to check on Marcus and the sound woke Emma up. She opened her eyes and saw her father looking at her. "Daddy?" She jumped up and carefully hugged him, being gentle around all the tubes and wires. "I was so scared you weren't going to wake up. I promised I'd never leave you, remember? I always keep my promises." Emma nodded, tears running down her face. "The nice lady bought me food and made sure I could stay here with you." Marcus looked at Victoria questioningly. "It's the least I could do," Victoria said quietly. "You took bullets for my son. You nearly died protecting a child you didn't even know." Over the next few hours, Marcus learned what had happened. The 3 gunmen had been caught a few blocks from the park. They were hired by a rival company trying to kidnap Tommy to force James Morrison to sell his business. The FBI was involved and there would be a trial. James Morrison himself appeared in the hospital room that evening, still wearing his expensive suit but looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Marcus," James said, his voice breaking. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my son's life." "Anyone would have done the same thing," Marcus said weakly. "No," James shook his head. "No, they wouldn't have. You had your own daughter to protect, but you still risked everything for Tommy. That takes a special kind of person. Emma was sitting on the edge of Marcus's hospital bed, holding his hand. Tommy had woken up and was now sitting beside her, also holding Marcus's other hand. Mr. Marcus is my hero, Tommy announced. He's the bravest person in the whole world. Yes, he is, Victoria agreed. He absolutely is. The next few weeks were the hardest of Marcus's life. He had to have 2 more surgeries to repair damage from the bullets. His left shoulder would never work quite the same way again, and he got tired easily. But he was alive, and that's what mattered. Victoria visited every day, sometimes bringing Tommy, sometimes coming alone. She helped Emma with her homework, brought them food, and made sure all of Marcus's medical bills were taken care of. You don't have to do all this, Marcus told her one afternoon. I don't want charity. Victoria looked at him with fierce determination. This isn't charity, Marcus. This is family taking care of family. We're not family, Marcus said gently. Yes, you are. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. The moment you threw yourself in front of that gun to protect my son, you became family. The moment you chose to save Tommy instead of just running away with Emma, you became more than family. Emma and Tommy had become inseparable. Tommy went to a private school across town, but Victoria brought him to visit Emma every day. They played together, did homework together, and had become like brother and sister. Mrs. Victoria, Emma said one day, why do you and Mr. Tommy have such a big house when you're just 2 people? Victoria smiled. Well, Tommy's not just one person. He's one very important person. And now we have more family, so maybe the house won't feel so big anymore. Marcus was confused by this comment, but Emma just nodded like it made perfect sense. When Marcus was finally released from the hospital, Victoria insisted on driving them home. But when they pulled up to Marcus's apartment building, Victoria didn't get out of the car. I have something to ask you, she said, turning to face Marcus and Emma in the back seat. Tommy was in his car seat beside Emma, also listening carefully. What is it? Marcus asked. James and I have been talking, and we have a proposition for you. Actually, it's more than a proposition. It's a request. Victoria took a deep breath. We want you and Emma to come live with us. Marcus stared at her. What? Our house is huge and empty. Tommy has been so lonely his whole life, and now he has Emma, and he's the happiest I've ever seen him. And Emma? Victoria looked at Emma, who was listening with wide eyes. Emma needs stability and good schools and opportunities. We can give her all of that. I can't accept that, Marcus said immediately. I appreciate everything you've done, but I can take care of my own daughter. This isn't about charity, Marcus. This is about family. Victoria's voice was firm but kind. You saved my son's life. You literally took bullets for him. Do you really think I'm going to let you struggle to pay rent when I have 8 empty bedrooms? Emma spoke up quietly. Daddy, I really like Mrs. Victoria and Tommy. And Tommy gets scared at night sometimes just like me. Tommy nodded eagerly. Mommy, can Emma be my sister? Please? Marcus felt overwhelmed. Victoria, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Victoria said simply. Let us take care of you the way you took care of us. Moving into the Morrison mansion was like stepping into a fairy tale. Emma had her own room that was bigger than their entire old apartment. It had a canopy bed, a reading nook, and more toys than she had ever seen in her life. But the best part was that Tommy's room was right across the hall, and they could talk to each other through the doors before going to sleep. Marcus had his own suite of rooms, complete with a sitting area and a bathroom with a tub big enough for 3 people. It felt surreal after years of sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with Emma. This is too much, Marcus told Victoria on their first night. I feel like I'm taking advantage of your kindness. Marcus, you nearly died protecting my son. There is literally nothing I could do that would be too much. Victoria was making hot chocolate for all of them in her enormous kitchen. Besides, James has something he wants to discuss with you. James appeared in the kitchen, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of his usual business suit. He looked younger and more relaxed. Marcus, I have a job offer for you. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate it, but I'm not qualified for anything at a tech company. James smiled. It's not at the tech company. I've been thinking about opening a restaurant. A real family restaurant, not just another chain. I need someone who understands food, who understands service, and who understands what it means to work hard for something you believe in. Marcus stared at him. You want me to run a restaurant? I want you to be my partner. 50-50. We'll start small, maybe take over that old diner where you used to work, fix it up, make it something special. I don't have any money to invest, Marcus said quietly. You already invested, James replied. You invested your life. That's worth more than money. Emma and Tommy came running into the kitchen, both wearing matching pajamas that Victoria had bought them. Daddy, can we have marshmallows in our hot chocolate? Emma asked. And can we watch a movie? Tommy added. Victoria handed them each a mug with extra marshmallows. Of course. We're a family now. Families watch movies together. As they all settled into the enormous living room, Emma curled up on one side of Marcus while Tommy curled up on the other side. Victoria sat in her chair and James sat beside her. This is nice, Emma said sleepily. I like our new family. Me too, Tommy agreed. Mr. Marcus, will you read us a story tomorrow? Every night if you want me to, Marcus promised. Victoria caught Marcus's eye and smiled. For the first time in years, Marcus felt like everything was going to be okay. The renovated Sunrise Diner was nothing like the old place. Marcus and James had kept the nostalgic feel but added modern equipment, comfortable seating, and most importantly, a kids' play area where Emma and Tommy could do homework after school. The menu featured comfort food made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Marcus had hired Betty as head waitress, and she was training a whole new staff in the art of making customers feel like family. Order up. Marcus called from the kitchen, where he had discovered a talent for cooking that he never knew he had. Business was booming. Word had spread about the diner's story, how it was owned by the hero who had saved a CEO's son and the grateful family who had adopted him in return. But people didn't come just for the story. They came for the food, the atmosphere, and the feeling that they were part of something special. Emma and Tommy attended the same private school now, and their friendship had only grown stronger. Emma was getting straight A's for the first time in her life, and Tommy was more confident and outgoing than he had ever been. Victoria had quit her high-stress job to focus on family and volunteer work. She and Marcus had developed a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared love for their children. Marcus, Victoria said one afternoon as they watched Emma and Tommy play in the diner's play area, do you ever regret it? Taking those bullets, I mean. Your shoulder still hurts and you get tired more easily than you used to. Marcus considered the question seriously. You know what I regret? I regret that it took getting shot for me to realize that sometimes the biggest risks lead to the biggest rewards. What do you mean? I spent so many years just surviving, just trying to get by day to day. I was so focused on protecting Emma from the world that I forgot to show her how beautiful the world could be. Marcus watched Emma help Tommy with a puzzle. Now look at her. She's thriving because she's part of something bigger than just the two of us. Victoria nodded thoughtfully. Tommy's thriving too. Before that day at the park he was so lonely. James and I were so busy with work that we barely spent time with him. Your Emma taught him what it means to have a real friend. James appeared from the office area, carrying a folder full of papers. Great news. We're officially in the black. The restaurant is actually making money. Already? Marcus was surprised. They had only been open for 3 months. Already. And I have another proposition for you. James sat down at their table. I want to open a second location. Maybe a third. I think we could turn this into something really special, a chain of family restaurants that actually care about families. Marcus looked around the diner, at the customers enjoying their meals, at Betty laughing with a regular customer, at Emma and Tommy playing together in the corner. 6 months ago he was struggling to feed his daughter. Now he was being offered the chance to build an empire. What do you think, partner? James asked. I think, Marcus said slowly, that sometimes the best things in life come from the worst moments. Daddy? Emma called from the play area. Tommy and I want to help serve the customers. Can we be waiters too? Marcus laughed. Come here you two. Emma and Tommy ran over, both wearing mini aprons that Victoria had made for them. If you're going to be waiters, you need to know the most important rule, Marcus told them seriously. What's the most important thing about running a restaurant? Making good food? Tommy guessed. Having clean tables? Emma tried. Those are important, Marcus agreed. But the most important thing is making people feel like family. When someone walks through that door, we want them to feel like they're coming home. Emma nodded gravely. Like how Mrs. Victoria made us feel like family. Exactly like that. As the afternoon sun streamed through the diner's windows, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed. He had started as a single father working double shifts just to survive. Now he was a successful business owner, living in a beautiful home, surrounded by people who loved him and Emma. But the best part wasn't the money or the house or even the restaurant. The best part was watching Emma grow up confident and happy, knowing she would never have to worry about where her next meal was coming from or whether her father would be there for her. The best part was giving Tommy the kind of childhood he deserved, full of laughter and adventure and the security of knowing he was loved. The best part was seeing Victoria and James become the kind of parents they had always wanted to be, more focused on family than on work. And the best part was knowing that sometimes, when you're willing to sacrifice everything for others, you don't lose everything. Sometimes you gain everything. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning while Marcus was prepping vegetables for the lunch rush. Emma and Tommy were at school, Victoria was at her book club, and the diner was in the calm before the storm. Marcus Williams? The voice on the other end was official and serious. Yes. This is Detective Rodriguez with the city police. I wanted to let you know that the trial is finally scheduled. The 3 men who shot you will be going to court next month. Marcus set down his knife and sat on a stool. He had been dreading this day for months. Do I have to testify? We'd like you to, but it's not required. We have plenty of evidence without your testimony. But the victim's impact statements are often powerful for the jury. After hanging up, Marcus stared at the prep work in front of him. He had tried not to think about that day too much. When the nightmares came, when Emma woke up scared, when his shoulder ached in the rain, he focused on the good that had come from it instead of the trauma. But now he would have to face those men again, sit in a courtroom and relive the worst day of his life. Everything okay? James had come in early and noticed Marcus's expression. Marcus told him about the phone call. James listened quietly, then sat down beside his friend and business partner. What do you want to do? I want to testify, Marcus said firmly. Those men tried to hurt Tommy. They tried to destroy your family. And if I don't testify, if I don't tell the jury what really happened, they might get away with it. Are you sure? It won't be easy. Marcus thought about Emma, who still sometimes had nightmares about seeing her father get shot. He thought about Tommy, who had been so scared that day that he didn't speak for a week afterward. He thought about Victoria, who still couldn't drive past that park without crying. I'm sure. But I want Emma to understand what's happening. And I want her to know that standing up for what's right is always worth it, even when it's scary. That evening, Marcus sat Emma and Tommy down in their living room. Victoria and James were there too, forming a circle of support around the children. Do you remember the bad men from the park? Marcus asked gently. Both children nodded. Tommy moved closer to his mother. Well, they're going to have to go to court and a judge is going to decide what happens to them. And I'm going to tell the judge and the jury what they did. Will you have to see them again? Emma asked worried. Yes, but they can't hurt anyone anymore. They're in jail and there will be police officers there to keep everyone safe. Tommy spoke up quietly. Will you tell them how scared I was? Marcus knelt down to Tommy's level. I'll tell them how brave you were. You listened when I told you to run and you helped your mom and you stayed calm even when you were scared. That's what brave means, doing the right thing even when you're afraid. Emma took Tommy's hand. We're brave too, right, Daddy? We're brave because we're a family. That's right, sweetheart. We're brave because we're a family. The courthouse was intimidating with its marble columns and serious-faced people in suits. Marcus wore his best shirt and tie, the same outfit he had worn to the diner's grand opening. Victoria and James sat in the front row behind him, and Emma was at school, protected from having to see any of this. When Marcus took the witness stand, he could see the 3 defendants sitting at a table across the courtroom. They looked smaller than he remembered, less threatening in their orange jumpsuits and handcuffs. The prosecutor, a kind woman named Sarah Chin, walked him through that day step by step. Mr. Williams, when you first noticed the defendants, what made you think something was wrong? The way they moved. I grew up in tough neighborhoods and you learn to recognize when someone is hunting. Marcus's voice was steady and clear. They weren't just walking through the park. They were positioning themselves around specific people. And what did you do when you realized Mrs. Morrison and her son might be in danger? I tried to get my daughter away from the area, but the children were too far from me and too close to the danger. I couldn't leave them there. Even though protecting them meant putting yourself in danger? Marcus looked across the courtroom at Victoria, who was crying quietly. Tommy is 7 years old, same as my Emma. If someone was threatening Emma and a stranger had the chance to help her, I would want them to do exactly what I did. The defense attorney tried to suggest that Marcus had overreacted, that maybe the men weren't really planning to hurt anyone. But the prosecutor had evidence, phone records showing the defendants had been hired to kidnap Tommy, surveillance footage from earlier in the day showing them watching the family, and testimony from other witnesses about what they had heard. When Marcus described the moment he threw himself over Tommy, when he talked about making the choice to protect a child he barely knew, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Mr. Williams, the prosecutor asked, do you regret your actions that day? Marcus thought about Emma's new school, about Tommy's laughter, about the successful restaurant, about the family he had gained. He thought about his scarred shoulder and the nightmares and the months of recovery. No, he said firmly. I don't regret it for a second. Those men wanted to hurt a child to get money. They wanted to destroy a family for profit. Someone had to stop them, and I'm glad it was me. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. All 3 defendants were found guilty on all charges: attempted kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted murder. They would spend the next 20 years in prison. Outside the courthouse, Marcus was surrounded by reporters asking about his heroism and his remarkable story. But all he wanted was to go home to his family. 2 years after that day in the park, Marcus stood in the kitchen of their second restaurant location, watching Emma and Tommy help the prep cooks make rolls for the dinner service. Emma was 9 now, confident and happy, fluent in both English and the Spanish she had learned from some of their employees. Tommy was also 9, no longer the lonely little boy who had played by himself at the park. Daddy, can Tommy and I start our own restaurant when we grow up? Emma asked, her hands covered in flour. You can do anything you want to do, sweetheart. What kind of restaurant would it be? A restaurant for kids who don't have much money, Tommy said seriously. So they can still have good food and feel like part of a family. Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears. These children who had been through so much trauma were already thinking about how to help other people. Victoria appeared in the kitchen doorway. There's someone here to see you, Marcus. Marcus followed her to the dining room, where a young woman in her 20s was sitting at a corner table. She looked nervous and kept glancing around the restaurant. Are you Marcus Williams? She asked as he approached. Yes. Can I help you? My name is Jennifer. I saw the news stories about what you did. About how you saved that little boy. She paused, wiping her eyes. I'm a single mom and I'm struggling so much. I work 2 jobs, but I can barely afford rent, and my daughter, she's only 5, and she asks me why we can't afford the things other kids have. Marcus sat down across from her. What's your daughter's name? Lily. She's the sweetest little girl, but I feel like I'm failing her every day. When I saw your story, when I read about how the Morrisons helped you and Emma, I thought maybe. She trailed off, embarrassed. You thought maybe we could help, Marcus finished gently. Jennifer nodded, unable to speak. Marcus looked around the restaurant, at the families enjoying dinner, at Emma and Tommy still playing in the kitchen, at the life he had built from nothing. He remembered sitting in this same position 2 years ago, desperate and struggling, thinking there was no way out. Jennifer, do you have any restaurant experience? She shook her head. I work at a grocery store during the day and clean offices at night. But I'm a hard worker and I learn fast. Marcus stood up. Betty, he called to his head waitress. Can you come here for a minute? Betty approached with a warm smile. What's up, boss? This is Jennifer. She's going to be our new assistant manager, and she's going to learn everything there is to know about running a restaurant. Can you start training her tomorrow? Jennifer stared at him in shock. Mr. Williams, I can't accept charity. Marcus smiled, remembering saying those exact words to Victoria. This isn't charity, Jennifer. This is how family works. And bring Lily by tomorrow after school. Emma and Tommy are always looking for new friends. 5 years after that life-changing day at the park, the Williams-Morrison family had grown in ways Marcus never could have imagined. The restaurant chain now had 6 locations across the city, each one committed to hiring single parents and providing childcare for employees. Jennifer had indeed become an excellent manager, eventually opening her own location with Marcus and James as silent partners. Her daughter Lily had become like another sister to Emma and Tommy. But the restaurants were just the beginning. The Morrison Family Foundation, established with Marcus as co-director, provided scholarships for children of single parents, funded after-school programs in low-income neighborhoods, and supported other heroes who had risked their lives to help others. Daddy, look what I made in art class, Emma said, now 11 years old and full of confidence. She showed him a painting of a man protecting 2 children with a rainbow in the background. It's beautiful, Em. Tell me about it. It's you and me and Tommy at the park that day. But I painted a rainbow because teacher says rainbows come after storms, and good things came after the scary day. Marcus hugged his daughter tight. She was right, so many good things had come from that terrible day. Tommy, also 11 now, came running into the room. Uncle Marcus, Mom says we're going to visit the new community center tomorrow. Uncle Marcus, that's what Tommy had started calling him, and it never failed to warm Marcus's heart. The community center was their latest project, providing free meals, tutoring, and safe spaces for children in the neighborhood where Marcus and Emma used to live. Victoria appeared in the doorway holding her phone. "Marcus, you need to see this." She showed him a news article on her screen. Local Heroes Foundation saves 500 families from homelessness. 500 families, Victoria said with tears in her eyes. "Do you realize what that means? Because you were brave enough to protect one little boy, we've been able to help thousands of people." Marcus shook his head in wonder. "It's not because of me. It's because people are fundamentally good. They just needed someone to show them how to help." James walked into the room, loosening his tie after a long day at Morrison Industries. The company was more successful than ever, but James now made sure to be home for dinner every night. "Family meeting," James announced. "I have something important to discuss with everyone." They all gathered in the living room: Marcus, Emma, Victoria, Tommy, and James. It felt natural now, this blended family that had been forged through crisis and strengthened by love. "I've been thinking," James began, "about legacy. About what we want to leave behind for Emma and Tommy and all the other children we've been able to help." He pulled out a legal document. "I've been talking to lawyers and I want to make this official. Marcus, I want to legally adopt Emma, and Victoria, and I want you to legally adopt Tommy. Not to change anything about our relationships, but to make sure that no matter what happens, our children are always family." Emma looked confused. "Daddy, what does that mean?" Marcus explained gently. "It means that Mr. James and Mrs. Victoria would officially be your second parents, and Tommy would officially be your brother. And I would officially be Tommy's second father." "Would I still be Emma Williams?" she asked. "You could be Emma Williams Morrison if you wanted," Victoria said. "Or just Emma Williams. Whatever feels right to you." Emma looked at Tommy. "What do you think?" Tommy grinned. "I think it means we're really, really family forever." "Then yes," Emma declared. "I want to be Emma Williams Morrison, and I want Tommy to be Tommy Morrison Williams." Marcus felt overwhelmed with emotion. From a single father struggling to pay rent to being part of this incredible family, it was more than he had ever dared to dream. Emma Williams Morrison, now 18 years old, stood at the podium in her high school auditorium, delivering her valedictorian speech to a packed audience. Marcus sat in the front row, tears streaming down his face, with Victoria, James, and Tommy beside him. 10 years ago, Emma began, her voice clear and strong, "My father taught me the most important lesson of my life. He showed me that when you see someone in trouble, you don't ask if they deserve help. You don't worry about what it might cost you. You just help because that's what families do for each other, and we're all family in this world." She looked directly at Marcus. "My dad took bullets for a little boy he had never met before. He risked everything to protect someone else's child. And that one act of heroism didn't just save Tommy Morrison's life, it saved mine too, and hundreds of other lives through the work our family has been able to do together." Tommy, now 18 and sitting next to his parents, wiped his eyes. He and Emma were heading to college together in the fall, both planning to study social work so they could continue the family tradition of helping others. "But the real hero's lesson isn't about being willing to take a bullet," Emma continued. "It's about being willing to take a chance on people. To see potential where others see problems. To believe that everyone deserves a family, and sometimes you have to create that family yourself." After the ceremony, the family gathered at the original Sunrise Diner for a celebration dinner. The restaurant was fuller than ever, with 3 generations of families who had been helped by the Morrison Family Foundation over the years. Jennifer was there with her daughter Lily, now 15 and planning to work at one of the restaurants over the summer. Betty, now in her 70s but still working because she loved it, brought out a special cake she had made for Emma's graduation. "Speech. Speech." Tommy called out, and soon the entire restaurant was chanting for Marcus to say something. Marcus stood up reluctantly. He had never been comfortable being the center of attention, but over the years, he had learned that sometimes you have to speak up for the things you believe in. 10 years ago, I was a single father working double shifts and struggling to keep my daughter fed and housed. I thought that was all I could ever hope for, just to survive, just to get by." He looked around the room at all the faces, employees who had been given second chances, families who had been lifted out of poverty, children who had been given opportunities they never would have had otherwise. "But I learned something that day at the park. I learned that sometimes the biggest risk you can take is also the safest thing you can do. When you protect others, when you choose love over fear, when you decide to be part of something bigger than yourself, that's when you find out who you really are." He raised his glass. "To family, the one you're born with and the one you choose and the one you create by opening your heart to the world. To family, everyone chorused, raising their glasses. As the celebration continued around him, Marcus stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. The same park where everything had changed was visible across the street, now equipped with better lighting and security cameras, but still a place where children played and families gathered. Emma joined him on the sidewalk. "Penny for your thoughts, Dad?" Marcus smiled at his daughter, beautiful, confident, and ready to change the world. "Just thinking about how proud I am of you. And how grateful I am for every single thing that led us here. Even the scary parts? Especially the scary parts. Because they taught us that we're braver than we knew, and stronger than we imagined, and capable of more love than we thought possible." Emma hugged him tight. "I love you to the moon and back, Dad. And I love you to the stars and beyond, Em. Always and forever." As they stood there together, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a desperate single father to the patriarch of an extraordinary blended family. From a man who thought he had nothing to offer to someone who had helped change hundreds of lives. The scar on his shoulder still ached sometimes, especially when it rained. But it was a reminder of the day he learned that heroes aren't people who aren't afraid, they're people who are afraid but choose to act anyway. And sometimes, when you're willing to sacrifice everything for love, you don't lose everything. Sometimes you gain everything. Sometimes you discover that the person you saved was actually saving you. And sometimes, just sometimes, taking a bullet leads to dodging a lifetime of regret, and opens the door to more happiness than you ever dared to dream. Marcus Williams had started as a man trying to protect his daughter from the world. But he had learned that the best way to protect the people you love is to make the world a better place for everyone. And that's exactly what he planned to keep doing, one act of kindness at a time for the rest of his life. Because that's what heroes do. That's what families do. That's what love looks like in action.